Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special episode of Tnow Talks. We've got none other than the legend Virge here in the booth with us to talk some shop today. Virge, it's exciting to have you on, man. Appreciate you joining the show.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime we get a chance to talk to such an awesome person in the Rocket League community, we are happy to do that. I know people are always interested in hearing about, kind of your coaching career, a lot of the stuff that you've been working on here recently. So let's just dive right into it with the coaching. Obviously, a lot of experience with Dignitas. What was it like kind of coaching some of these really highly skilled players?
Um, I was definitely nervous when I first started. When I had a tryout for Dignitas, especially, I remember just being really nervous. It's funny, when I was on Allegiance and I knew Allegiance was shutting down, we went to Las Vegas for Worlds that season. And I went there knowing Allegiance wasn't going to be a thing anymore. And it wasn't announced yet or anything. And I went and sat in the crowd and watched Dignitas walk out. And I thought to myself, man, it would be so cool to coach players of that caliber. Like, because Allegiance, they were rookies. You know, they were my friends. I loved them. But they were not, they were not a top team. And so when Dignitas walked out, I was like, man, it'll never happen, but it would be so cool to coach a team like that. And then, however, a year and a half later, I got an opportunity to try out, and I was like, man, this is kind of unreal. I'm afraid they won't accept me because I've never been a pro myself. I've never coached a team other than Allegiance. But yeah, I went into it. I was myself, and I tried out, and they liked it. So it was relieving.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing the work that you put in to get there. Do you want to hear a little bit more about that? I've got kind of a two-pronged question here of how did you get into coaching, and did you prefer coaching or playing, or do you have a preference, I guess?
Okay. I got into coaching. It kind of actually fell in my lap. I was friends with Tyler, and naturally became friends with the people he was teaming with just because we hung out so much. And we went to we made it to RLCS. Well, they made it to RLCS, and they had an org or a bunch of orgs trying to offer them, a job or represent our org and we'll pay you this much. And they were all in high school still, and I had just turned, I think, 20. And I had been through a couple contracts myself and kind of been screwed over a couple times. So I told him, hey, if you guys want, I can read over any contracts you guys get offered, and I'm not a lawyer or anything, but I'll find stuff that, maybe I've been screwed over before on, and make sure you guys are taken care of. And so I was doing that, and a couple orgs kind of liked that, and they offered me to, be the manager to take care of the team. And Allegiance was one of those teams that made that offer. We ended up taking the Allegiance offer. And then once they found out what rank I was in Rocket League, they asked if I would coach the team as well. And I was like, I've never done it. I'll give it a shot. So for the first 6 months that I was supposed to be coaching them, I wasn't actually coaching them. I was more so just studying the game. I was just paying attention to scrims, watching high-level players, watching replays back of other teams' perspectives, and stuff like that. And then right when I was ready to start coaching them, we got dropped. They dropped out of RLCS, and Allegiance shut down. And so I never really got a chance to put my practice into work until I started doing Gamers Ready. And then that's where I really built up a lot of experience. I think I've coached about like 300 plus clients on Gamers Ready. And then that's how I built up my reputation and how I built up my skill in coaching. And then that's how I ultimately got onto Dignitas, was with that on my resume. And the preference, I definitely prefer coaching, I think. I feel like it's a lot more of a solidified position, and I feel like it's less stressful. Because when you're a player, not only do you have to be the best, you have to consistently stay the best. And I feel like that's really stressful. I can imagine it's really, really stressful to just constantly have to feel like you're not good enough, otherwise somebody else is going to come take your spot. So coaching, it's definitely a lot more relaxed. I can definitely, I can definitely feel a lot more comfortable in my position a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a really good insight that a lot of people, when they're watching professionals, I mean, obviously you respect the skill, and it's crazy how good these guys are. But a lot of times I think people just think, oh, they're just playing video games still, right? Like I could maybe do that, or theoretically if I worked hard enough. But you kind of I mean, you've seen behind the curtain, if you will. I mean, the hours and hours and hours, and if you take a week off or a couple days off and your skills drop a little bit, boom, there's somebody ready to kind of take over and keep moving forward. And it's very equivalent to traditional sports, right? I mean, you always have to train. You always have to be on your A game. You really cannot just treat it like, oh, I'm playing a video game. I mean, it is a legitimate, full on, full time job there.
No, it's a lot. Yeah, exactly. It's a livelihood. It's something that, like you said, it's competitive. People, if somebody wants your spot, they're gonna come for it. And if you're not working harder than everybody else, they're gonna take it.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, coaches are a big help in getting the team ready, getting the players ready. What's that kind of look like from a day to day perspective, as far as what maybe a Rocket League coach would be doing with their team?
So day to day, most of the time it's a lot of spectating scrims and kind of just suggesting changes and testing things. Or if we're not, if we're not doing scrims, I'm watching replays on my own of the team, or I'm watching replays of other teams. I think every coach's role is different. Everybody coaches differently. For me, I take a very analytical approach. I'm more involved on the strategy side than I am on the, I guess, motivational side. I do try to keep them motivated when the opportunities are there, but my main focus for the most part is always been strategy. So I spend a lot of time watching high-level Rocket League in replays and kind of breaking down how other teams play and trying to pull the good stuff from other teams into our strategy and trying to catch weaknesses in other teams that we can exploit, and just overall build the best play style in Rocket League. And that kind of worked for a little while with Dignitas in season 8 and 9. The play style that we were playing was just something that, of course, the players had partly developed and I partly developed, but it was a play style that I pushed on them pretty heavily, and it worked really, really well. And other teams caught on, and it became kind of more of a meta, I guess, to throw those infield passes, and so teams were starting to intercept them more, and we had to adapt our play style to that. So it's a lot of strategy, and as cheesy as it sounds, it's a lot of studying. I do a lot of studying of high-level Rocket League.
It's really interesting. Really interesting to hear kind of the strategic side of it. Do the players get involved a lot with the replay watching and replay analysis, or is it kind of more of your role to sort of aggregate what you see and then bring that to the team?
Yeah, so I'm sure the players are watching replays in their own time. It's not something that I have them. I don't have them like go watch replays of other teams or anything. But I do make sure that they're watching replays of the team that, our team, our scrims and stuff like that. And we have replay analysis after scrims sometimes, or we have, I'll set up a one-on-one with one of my players, and we'll do some replays. And they definitely bring a lot of insight. I mean, I told the team when I came on, and I tell players anytime they join the team that I'm coaching now is replays. They're my job to go through, but the team's performance is your job as well. And so you've got ideas. You add an element to the game. You see it differently. I want your input. I want you guys to be telling me things that you want to add to the game, and we'll test it out and we'll figure it out. I try to get my players heavily involved into the replays.
Nice. That's really awesome. I guess when you're actually in the game, how does coaching kind of work on game day or within the game itself, and kind of where are you operating at on those particular days?
It definitely varies depending on the players that you have on your team. Like with Astral, Yukio, and Panda, that Dignitas roster, I was more involved on the day. I was involved in scrims, involved in replays, and involved on the day, where I was constantly keeping energy up. I was constantly keeping everybody in check in terms of their effort, and making sure that everybody was communicating. and stuff like that. But when we replaced Astro with Yoras and Astro left, it was a new environment. It was a new chemistry, new energy. So it required less involvement of on the day for me. And so it was one of those things where I feel more comfortable now being like, okay, well, practices are mine. Game day is yours for the players. So I try to sit back and just call out when energy gets low, if we get down or demotivated. But as far as strategy goes, I try to keep them, or I try to let them kind of talk it out with each other. And then I'm there if they want to ask questions, or if they have anything like, hey, do you see any weaknesses in the other team? Or, hey, what am I doing wrong? But I'm not as involved on the day as I was with the other roster. So yeah, it varies depending on the players and what the players need from me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's always kind of something I've seen with coaching, is that there's definitely some personnel management in there, right? Like different people like to operate in different ways. As a coach, it's kind of your responsibility to get in there and figure out the most effective way to make sure the team's working together. We've kind of already talked a little bit about your coaching style being a little bit more strategic, a little bit more analytical than necessarily like the motivational, like, hey, let's go, I'm here to pump you guys up kind of style. What sort of tips do you have for maybe like aspiring coaches or people who are looking to get into the profession?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely just like being a player, in the sense that if you're not working your absolute hardest, there's somebody out there who is, and they're going to be working harder than you. If you're aspiring to be a coach, I would say download every RLCS replay you can and watch it from every player's perspective, and just get a full understanding of how the game is supposed to be played at the highest level, and develop a strategy that you think would work at that level, and try to implement it with a team. If you're working with a team, try to get maybe a bubble team, or a team that's close to being pro, or even a CRL team, and try to work with a team, but definitely work with individuals as well on Gamers Ready or on Fiverr. Monetize your practice so that you can practice more. So like for me, Gamers Ready was that monetization for my practice. I was getting in hours and I was getting paid to do it. So I was getting to get better at coaching, and because I was getting paid to do it, I was able to do it more. And if you're, if you have no experience or no reputation, start out with whatever price, like $5 an hour. Or I used to do replays on my stream for free. Actually, that's where I started to build my reputation, was, come to my stream and I'll do replay analysis for free. And then it got to the point where I had so many people asking for it, I had to do it for subs only. Then I had so many subs asking for it, I had to start charging for it. So you just, as you get better and better, you're going to get more and more demand, and you can slowly raise your price, and that will allow you to just continue practicing it more. And the more you practice, the better you'll get.
That's awesome. So I remember seeing you on Gamers Ready a ton, in the earlier days, a little bit before Dignitas, and then I know you're still on there a little bit as well, but obviously when you got into full-time professional coaching, that was taking up a lot more time. Just curious to get your opinion on if you think, like, kind of with the emergence of a little bit more easily accessible coaching through things like Gamers Ready, I know you also mentioned Fiverr, and even more specifically in Rocket League, I feel like I was really starting to see a lot more about coaching with your emergence and how prominent you were making it within the Rocket League community. Do you think within like the last, I guess we'll just say year or so, that coaching within, maybe let's just talk about with Rocket League, like that coaching within Rocket League has really come to the forefront a little bit more than maybe it traditionally was in the esport?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I started coaching, I I used to get memes for it a lot. People used to be like, how can you coach? You've never been a pro. You're not even, as good as them, this and that. How do you know what you're, how do you coach players that are better than you? And back then, coaches weren't really a thing. But I understood Rocket League as a sport. It was a sport to me, and I think a lot of people saw it that way. And so it surprised me when so many people thought coaching wasn't a thing. They were like, well, you can't coach in Rocket League. It's never gonna be a thing. When I got this is the moment that I decided that coaching would be a thing, was when I got asked to coach them. I gave 6 months of effort of trying to become a practiced coach, and I realized, yeah, you definitely can. And when Allegiance shut down, actually the day after I got the call saying, hey, you're out of a job, Twitter verified me for being on a team. And as soon as I got verified on Twitter, I was like, you know what? I am now a verified coach on Twitter. And so if I take it seriously and start acting like that on Twitter, people will see the verification and they'll go, okay, this guy's a verified coach. He knows what he's talking about. So I kind of just threw all embarrassment out the window, all pride out the window, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take it seriously. If I get joked for it, whatever. So I just started posting on Twitter clips with tips. I started tweeting out that I'm going to be full-time coaching on Gamers Ready. And I just started taking it really seriously, and I just ignored what everybody was saying. You're not going to be able to coach a team. You're not a pro. You can't coach players better than you. All that stuff is just, who cares if I'm making money from it,
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was making a living from it on Gamers Ready full time, I just focused as hard as I could, and what people were saying didn't really matter to me. And it started to become a thing. People were like, you know what, wow, you can actually coach in Rocket League. I think really when I took Dignitas, when I picked up Dignitas, and we went to third place at Worlds after coming out of a season, just a horrible season, people realized something's going on there outside of the players, and they just picked up a new coach, so maybe it's this guy, and more teams started picking up coaches, and I'm not saying in any way that I started coaching in Rocket League by any means, but I definitely think I helped people be less afraid of being a coach, or I definitely think I helped people understand that coaching has an impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's definitely starting to come out more now. I think people are realizing the edge that you get, and as competition gets closer and closer, everybody's looking for the edge, any edge they can get.
Yeah, I mean, especially at the highest level, it's all about finding that edge, trying to get that championship, just inching closer and closer however you can. And it's been really cool to see your journey and how you've kind of gotten to where you are today. Last question here related to coaching, and then we'll kind of dive a little bit more into general Rocket League. I don't know if there's any other games you enjoy playing or any other esports you enjoy following, but just kind of like a, just kind of like a fantasy question, I guess, if you will. If you could be a coach for like any other esport, what would be one that you think you would really enjoy?
I think that I would really enjoy coaching League of Legends. I played League of Legends for 7 years, so I do have a lot of knowledge in it. I got to Diamond, which isn't any kind of pro level, but it was like a pretty small percentage of players, and I enjoyed the game, and man, do they get paid well. League of Legends coaches get paid really well, so I think I would definitely do League of Legends coaching. I don't think I have enough experience in any other game to do coaching anyway, so probably League of Legends.
That's awesome. Yeah, League it's a pretty popular game, and it's that same with Dota. I mean, the amount of money in the MOBA industry is absolutely insane. But let's talk about Rocket League, because maybe the money will be there someday with the new free to play, and I definitely think it will. We'll transition into Rocket League with a semi-coaching question here. Is like, what do you think's the most important thing to learn if you're trying to be a good player or teammate?
That's a hard question. There's so much to learn in Rocket League. It really depends. If you're looking to be a good player or teammate at the highest level, I would say the most important skills are actually mechanics. Mastering mechanical consistency, being able to do everything you want to do every time you try to do it, because game sense is something you can teach pretty quickly. Mechanics you can't teach quickly. You can give somebody the resources to practice mechanics and get better at them, but it ultimately comes down to how many hours they put in to practicing those mechanics. But if games, like with game sense, if we watch however many replays and we go over situations over and over and over and explain the thought process behind it and why you should be doing what you're doing, players at the highest level pick it up really quickly. So if you are a master mechanics, Astral, we proved it with Astral. Astral was an entirely mechanical player. He came from freestyling. He didn't have any kind of competitive experience. And within a month, we had him with some of the best game sense in the game. And it just came from me and Panda and Yukio and Astral all sitting in replays and talking about situations and decisions and how we should be making our decisions and why we're making those decisions. And he just turned from the best mechanical player in the world to, in my opinion, the best competitive player in the world. And then we did it again with Joris. Joris, we picked him up purely because of mechanics, purely because he was such a good ones player. I remember talking to Panda about it for a long time. Just, we're watching Joris for weeks because we wanted to just, I think if we pick up a mechanical player, we can teach them. So I think if you're trying to be the best of the best and you need to learn certain skills, it's definitely mechanics.
That's really interesting. I feel like a lot of times people answer like the, game sense, rotation, that sort of thing. But I personally, I think I was kind of one of those persons who maybe if you want to, or one of those people who, if you want to rank up faster or you want to be a really good player, like start with the fundamentals and then you'll kind of learn the mechanics. But I will say you swayed me a little bit here because if I think about, like I always like to compare stuff to traditional sports. If I think about, how many shots do you think Michael Jordan took to get down his jumper, right? Like if you think about how much it takes to get down the mechanics of a sport or a game, if you can do something perfect every single time or get as close to it as possible, the rest just kind of falls into place. So I'm going to steal that answer next time somebody asks. I like that. He swayed me on that one. Kind of along those lines within Rocket League, what do you think is the best way that people can improve those mechanics?
Oh, man. I know a majority of Rocket League players are on consoles, so it sucks. But workshop maps. I think that workshop maps and 1v1s are the best way to improve your mechanics. Workshop maps just add an element to the game that you don't get in free play, that you don't get in training packs. There are just so many random angles or random awkward positions or things that you can do in workshop maps that you can't do in free play. And so you get to practice mechanics in ways that in accelerated ways that you wouldn't get to in free play. And then 1v1s, this is kind of my ideas in 1v1s, of course, it relies on your mechanics a lot. It relies on you to make good decisions in a one-on-one situation. But if you can beat anybody, or if you want to be a pro, you should be able to beat anybody in a one-on-one situation. And so if you are trying to go pro, if you're trying to get really good mechanically, I would suggest playing a lot of ones. It forces mechanical consistency. It forces overall consistency. And it's proving to yourself that you're able to beat anybody in one-on-ones. And if you can beat anybody in one-on-ones, then you have that one-on-one situation at the highest level, even one-on-twos, one-on-threes. You should be able to beat them at that level with teammates to help you out. So it's definitely really, really helpful if you focus on ones. And I don't think enough people do. I think ones and threes go hand in hand. If you're trying to be a good threes player, you have to be a good ones player.
That's interesting. I mean, especially building off your answer about mechanics being one of the most important things, if not the most important. Ones, it can be a lot about mechanics. I mean, it's just you out there. And if you're able to, like you said, beat your opponent in those 1v1 situations by kind of having your mechanics down, by just being able to be better than them, that's going to transfer over to the other playlists as well. So I guess depending on your views here of a hard stuck player, this may be a bit of a meme question, but what do you think players should do if they're hard stuck at a rank?
Something different. If you're hard stuck, you're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a new result. That's the truth of it. You are doing the same thing over and over and expecting to just all of a sudden be better. To get better at anything, you have to change. That's all getting better is constant change, because if you're getting better, something about you is changing. Something about you is getting better. The biggest thing that I learned about being hard stuck for any video game, because I used to get hard stuck in League of Legends and I used to not understand what was going wrong. And I even in the very beginning of Rocket League, I was hard stuck. I was like Superstar or something back then in those ranks. And there's just something that clicked with me that I was like, look, if I'm hard stuck, I got to start changing stuff. I got to start doing something different. I can't just keep practicing the same way and expect to get better faster and just naturally get better without any kind of changed effort. So if you're hard stuck, you're doing something wrong, clearly. And so you have to just consistently change and constantly add to yourself and constantly build on the skills that you already have. And really, to get better, you have to get worse first. You're going to be making mistakes more often when you're practicing something new. So you have to accept the fact that you are going to be worse at the game when you're practicing, because in the long run, it's going to pay off much more than if you just constantly play to win. If you're constantly playing to win, that's when you get hard stuck. When you're playing to improve, you're never going to get hard stuck.
Yeah, and I guess when you're playing to improve, the winning will kind of come naturally at a certain point. Is if you keep getting better than the people around you, you're going to start ranking up anyway. So let's talk a little bit about RLCSX here. How are you feeling about the new format so far, and are you liking kind of what they've done with this new format?
My God, it's exhausting. But I love it. There's a lot of Rocket League all the time. It's made it much more competitive. Of course, it's not relying on one day anymore, so I feel like it's a lot easier to kind of bounce back and tell yourself, we'll get it next week. Because previously, if you messed up one weekend, your entire season could have ridden on that single weekend, and you can't make it to Worlds now, or you can't qualify for top 6 or whatever it is. But with this new format, it's like, okay, we're in 30th place right now, but we've got 45 more tournaments next week that can catch us back up. So yeah, it's a lot more fun, a lot more involved. There's a lot more hours going into practicing and studying, and I think it's increased everybody's drive in this game. So it's made it a lot more competitive and a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like people are really stepping up, and I feel like a lot of people who were really hungry for that opportunity are kind of starting to shine here, and it's been awesome to see what's been happening in the community. But you're right. I mean, there is a lot of Rocket League, which as a viewer and a fan, that's a good thing. But I imagine it definitely can get pretty exhausting there at certain points for the people that are actually competing in that. Leave you with this last question here. We'll kind of tug at the heartstrings a little bit. How much do you miss LAN events?
Man, a lot. Truthfully, a lot. LANs. I mean, that's why you do it. That's the whole reason we do it. Is to get to LAN and be in front of the crowd and compete where everybody's watching. I mean, Madrid was my first Worlds event, and it was, unreal. There's no feeling I can compare to it. So, there's just this level of drive that you have to get back there every single year, every single season. You want to be on that stage competing for the World Championship. I can't explain how it feels to be up there. So it's just one of those things that, I'm addicted to it. I have to get back there. And when we were going to go to Dallas Worlds, I was so excited because I thought that would be our season. I thought we'd win it. And then they canceled it on us, and since then there hasn't been any LANs. And it's just I miss the competitive LAN aspect of it, but I also miss my friends, man. I've got so many friends in Rocket League that I haven't seen in so long now because there's no event. So the moment they announce the next LAN, I'm gonna be jumping out of my seat.
Yeah, those tickets are going to go quick. I'm going to be ready to buy one immediately because, Dallas, I know there were a ton of people from the IGL community who were going, and a lot of the content creators that, we've been working with were going, and man, there was just so much hype. Everybody was excited to meet up, and canceled for a good reason, obviously, but
of course.
It's still hard to come to terms with the reality of that. I know I said that was the last question, but I actually have one more because I did meet you at Newark at that LAN. Was that the one where you were sitting there watching Dignitas come out and be like, that's going to be me someday? Because I remember where you were sitting, kind of back, one of the back rows. Had a little bit of space there to yourself there, at least when I came up to see you. Mm-hmm. And I could tell you're studying away.
No. So it was Vegas. It was the season that Cloud9 won. I can't remember which season it was, but no, Newark. Newark was a lot of motivation for me as well, because I was in my individual coaching grind. I was on Gamers Ready. I wasn't working with a team. And so being there and watching RLCS, it was just even more motivation for me to keep going because, I did Gamers Ready like 8 hours a day for a year. It was like 9 months straight that I was doing it. And the entire time I even got denied for Dignitas the first time I applied. They picked up Snasky instead of me. And that day I told myself, I was like, I got denied, but they told me that I was a close second. And so if I'm a close second behind Snasky, who's had a professional career already, and I've never had one, then that's a good sign. I'm on the right track. So I'm going to keep grinding this out. I'm going to keep trying to be a better coach. And I said, I'm going to take Snasty's spot one day. And so I put my background on my computer as Dignitas so that every time I sat down on my computer, I knew what I was grinding for. And I was just nose down, focusing on what I had to, and going to RLCS. It was like a pick me up. It was like, this, because it was months where I didn't get involved with the community. I didn't get involved with the scene. And so being at that RLCS was definitely another, this is why I'm doing it. I'm going to get there. So I'm going to keep with it. It was definitely really motivating.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you've been a real motivation to the entire community, and it's been great to see all the hard work that you put into paying off. A really great story. So let's close it out with you letting everybody know where they can find you, as well as if there's anything you want to shout out, feel free. The floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, you guys can find me on YouTube, mainly on Twitter as well, but I mostly any content I put out is usually coming out on YouTube. Occasionally I'll stream on Twitch, but it's youtube.com/Virge, twitter.com/Virge, twitch.tv/VirgeRL. I'm pretty active on Twitter. Pretty active on Twitter. I try to upload to YouTube once a week. I don't always, but for the most part, I try to. I want to give a huge shout out to my team, Violent Panda, Yukio, Yoris, Astro before that. Those guys have helped me learn a lot as a coach. Those guys have pushed me to be the best that I can be. Special shout out to Violent Panda. He's put in a lot of time with me to help me get a lot better at my job, and just help me understand the game at such a higher level. I want to give a shout out to my girlfriend, who's been super supportive through all this. She's been with me since day one, helping me push my career, behind me, supporting me, telling me I can do it. And shout out to you and the Indy Gaming League. You guys are killing it. I see how much effort you guys are putting in, and I hope it's paying off. And shout out to everybody who's listening. You guys are awesome. You guys are the reason that I'm able to do this, and you guys are the reason that I'm doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Virge. Really appreciate it. And I definitely recommend, if you see Virge putting spots on Gamers Ready, look those up, because I've seen a couple IGL people tweet at you, be like, this was awesome, I improved a ton. So I highly recommend it. We'll make sure to get all the social links in the description of the video, so you can drop the follows down there. Appreciate you being on here and taking some time today. I learned a lot, and I think everybody watching is going to have learned a lot as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. That concludes this episode of Tnow Talks. Keep an eye on our socials. See who we'll have on next time. That's at Indy Gaming 317.